Our esteemed majority leader previously spoke about the rights of the majority versus the rights of the minority. But I'll tell you, I have a very different take on this whole legislative process. I believe the legislative process is intended to be a way of providing an opportunity to vet ideas and to come through with the best ideas possible, involving as much public discourse as possible and in the public view, so that at the end of the day, we come out with a policy that is most effective and will benefit New Yorkers across the state. Unfortunately, in our process right now, it doesn't work that way. There are times when we have as many as a third of the voices in New York that are not listened to when we're coming up with these ideas. And if it were working so well as it's been put forth, we wouldn't be having rallies across the street about bills that were done in the dark of night, where things weren't addressed, where the public didn't have the opportunity for discourse. And the end result is that we don't have buy-in. The public doesn't want to or doesn't accept the end result. And that's a problem for all of us. That isn't about majority versus minority. That's about doing a good job on behalf of the people we represent. And it's very, very different than what's been portrayed. The end result of the legislation, when we don't have public discourse, where we aren't listening to people not only who agree with us, but the ones who disagree with us, is we end up with bills that have technical errors, that we end up having to go back and change, and again, the lack of public confidence. And the reality is, already this year, we've had probably a dozen bills that we've had to go back and fix because we didn't do a good job in the first place. And where we can make the biggest effect is at the committee level. And there are things we can do at the committee level, again, not to benefit the minority or the majority, but to do a better job on behalf of the people in this state. 4 of those things we can do, and they are included as amendments in this provision, is to include a roll call of committees on the LRS system. We do that already for our floor votes. And it is critical that we allow the public to see what we're doing in committee as well. Because again, we don't get the opportunity to have them weigh in when we're at the committee level, and that's where we can make the biggest difference. We should also allow for the committee chair to call a hearing with 1/3 of the membership of that committee wanting the hearing. The hearings are very, very important in the process. That's where we have the public come in and explain to us what's good, what's not good, what we should be doing, what we should be leaving out. And that's something we can all benefit from. Right now, the current rule says that we can have a majority, or we have to have a majority of the committee in order to call a hearing. But the reality is, in practice, it's the chairperson and the speaker who's calling the hearing. Well, that's fine if the chairperson and the speaker are the only two who need to find out more on a particular topic. What about all of the other members of the committee, majority and minority? I think it's critical that we open up that opportunity for more hearings by requiring fewer members to be able to call that hearing. And this is another one, and I'm sorry, I'm going to try not to be cheeky about this, but this is the rounding up rule. And you know what? It's amazing to me. We are talking 3rd grade math. Right now, the way the current rule stands, any fractional number that the majority controls, we automatically round up to the majority. What we should be doing is following the rules that our 3rd graders tell us, and our 3rd grade teachers tell us, is that if it's greater than half, you round up. If it's less than half, you round down. I mean, that is just basic common sense. And quite frankly, I find that kind of embarrassing in this House, that we change the math rule to benefit one side over the other. A final proposal here is to require the recording and broadcast of committee meetings. Again, we need to see what's happening in the committees. When you're talking about a room full of people as opposed to a chamber full of people, we can have much, much better discourse. We can have a much better conversation about the legislation or the ideas. We all benefit from that. That's not something that just the minority gets, something the majority benefits from as well. And a bill that we worked on earlier today, sometimes that does happen, but the public needs to see it happening. Because if they don't, they lack confidence in what the end results are. So again, we need to open up our committee process. We need to make sure the public's involved. We need to allow for as much information to be brought in. And if we do those things, not only does the majority or minority benefit, but all New Yorkers benefit as well. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Ms. Corwin.